What we always tell them, Jimmy, is that, yeah, we do this. Me and you are behind the scenes helping as much as we can. But I tell them when I recruit them, I tell them when they graduate as All-Americans that they did it. They have to do it. It's their responsibility. It's not ours.
Welcome to the Living in the Zone podcast. I'm your host, ZoneCoach Jim Fannin. I've coached champions in life, business, and sports for 50 years with a proprietary thought management system that I discovered called S.C.O.R.E. Every guest on this show has been in what we call a zone state, a purposeful, calm feeling where nothing can go wrong, and you're performing at your highest level. Our special guest today is Illinois men's golf coach Mike Small. As a 13-time Big Ten Coach of the Year, Mike's guided the Illinois Fighting Illini to an impressive 9 NCAA match play appearances, the most by any head coach with one program in the country. Under his leadership, the Illini have produced 2 NCAA individual champions, 9 Big Ten individual champions, and 37 total All-American awards. His teams have also claimed 13 Big Ten titles, 6 NCAA regional titles, and when Mike isn't coaching, he's playing. He's a baller. He's a 3-time winner of the PGA National Championship, a 3-time PGA Professional National Player of the Year, and he's participated in 13 major championships. You don't want to miss this conversation, and it's coming right now on Living in the Zone. Mike Small, welcome to Living in the Zone podcast. I'm fired up having you on the show. Living in the Zone is more than just golf in the zone. It's dad in the zone, son in the zone, brother in the zone. It's really everything. And what I'd like to do, you have an exemplary career, definitely arguably the best coach, maybe greatest coach, college coach in the country, golf coach. The accolades speak for themselves. I've been with you over a decade. I think you and I don't even remember when we started. Was it 10 years, 11, 12? Who knows? I forgot. But what a career. When did you know? Because you were out on the tour. You accomplished on the tour, on the Corn Ferry, which is the Corn Ferry now. When did you make that transition from player to coach? What caused you to do that? I mean, you had 2 little kids. Did you just wake up and go, I need some stability instead of being a vagabond, traveling city to city with little kids and a wife? When did you make that change, and what prompted you to do that?
Well, first of all, Jimmy, thanks for having me on here. We've been talking about doing this for years now, and I'm glad we finally got around to it. And I'm always there for you. You've always been there for me and for our team, and we appreciate that. So, like I said, we've been joined at the hip for over 10 years now, and it's been very beneficial to all of us. I wish I had you back when I was on the PGA Tour and the Corn Ferry Tour. You know, I won twice on the Corn Ferry Tour back in the day, which was the Nike Tour at the time. Now it's called the Corn Ferry Tour, and I got to the PGA Tour. And I played over 75 official events on the PGA Tour, but as an exempt member in 1998. But I played obviously more events than that. And I lost my card, and I was back on the Corn Ferry Tour as a past champion in the past champions category, and playing okay, doing okay, getting in events. And then, but it got to a point where the game was consuming me. My attitude was not good. I was a victim at everything I did. I was complaining about the practice rounds, the pro-ams, the tee times I got, the bad weather on the draw. I just got to a point where I've been playing golf for 10 or 12 years. Like I said, got to the PGA Tour, played in majors, and I was playing with the best players in the world. And then before I knew it, I was back on the AAA, where I was for a couple of years before that. And it just got to me. It it wasn't the same. And maybe I was smart enough or dumb enough to realize this isn't right. My kids were getting into kindergarten at 5 and 3. They usually travel with me. They weren't going to be able to travel anymore. And I was just fighting myself. It was just I was in a bad spot. And this opportunity came about to come back and coach the my alma mater, where I played golf and had a great experience in college golf. And
you were a walk-on, am I right? Weren't you a walk-on at Illinois?
I got preferred walk-on. Yeah, I mean, I was recruited by a bunch of schools, but back then scholarships. I said, I was a Illinois kid, so come on, be a part of this program, and we'll take care of you later. But we're short on money. We want you to be here, and I chose that over some other opportunities. And but Steve Strickland and I were on the same team together at Illinois, and that obviously helped jumpstart my career and being around somebody of that caliber. And then I came back to coach because I enjoyed college golf. If I hadn't enjoyed college golf and the experience of it, I wouldn't have come back to coach, and I wouldn't have coached anywhere else in America if it wasn't Illinois. I hadn't never been a coach before. I knew the game. I'd played at the highest level and had success, but the AD here at the time wanted me to come back and build something special, and it was kind of intriguing. And I was fighting myself so much on tour, and so much I was just a little baby out there at that time. But the game had overwhelmed me and was owning me, and I wasn't controlling my own mind.
Was your wife relieved that she thought maybe we're going to have a little stability here?
Well, I think so. But if you know my wife, Ann, she's unbelievable, awesome, supportive a woman, but at the same point in time, she kind of liked the tour life. She liked traveling and doing that stuff.
That.
She's part gypsy, we always call her. But no, she was going to support whatever I decided to do. And obviously, for the sake of the family and the kids, this was the best decision to have some stability. But it was really the motivating factor was myself, my mindset, where I was in my life with the game of golf. I needed a reset and thought I'd maybe coach for a year or two and go back to play on tour again.
Wow.
But then I started coaching and loved it.
Did you have any thoughts about developing long-term culture? When did that kind of sink in that I need a culture at Illinois because, all the southern schools, the California, the Texas, the Floridas all year round, they're getting all the top players because the weather's better. And why would you want to go to Illinois? It's cold and it's rainy and it could be snowing, in the early part of the season. When did you start about the culture?
I think about a year into my first year dealing with trying to build a program and change the mindset and change the culture of a team that wasn't very good. I had to change the culture primarily, number one, for my own sanity, for my own enjoyment of the job. I had to have people that shared my vision and shared my energy in order for me to be happy and for me to be stable. So I needed that done first. And then obviously to be successful, you needed to have a culture, something that would build on itself and go from year to year. And we had to formulate an identity of who we were and who the program was and recruit people that wanted to be a part of that identity. And then once you decide that and realize you have to do that, from a recruiting standpoint, like you said, but also from a development standpoint, you have to commit to it and then buy in 100%. And we did that. And then obviously the addition of you, probably 10 years later, really helped take it to another level.
Yeah, I remember one of our first meetings. I think we were introduced together. I don't even remember. I don't know if it was Brian Mogg or Mike Adams or it was someone referred you and I together, but our first meeting, we talked about culture, building a mental culture that could withstand scrutiny, could withstand all kinds of weather, which Illinois has to contend with.
You keep bringing up that weather, Jim. What are you doing, recruiting against me already or what? I mean, everywhere I go, I hear about the weather, but the weather's not a big deal.
As you and I know, we've taken that as an advantage. I hope it snows sideways because we're going to kick your rear end if it does, if it's rainy or cold. And that's one of the hallmarks of an Illinois team. The weather's irrelevant. In fact, that's one of our strengths in the last 10 years. But you really had the self-discipline to stay focused on the culture and to put your discipline, which is stringent, and pass that on to all the players. Who was the first All-American that you had brought in or developed into an All-American? Do you remember the first player?
Yeah, I mean, I had some All-Americans when I first started coaching, a year or two into it. They were really good players and we helped. And along the lines you're talking about really people buying into the system, I'm buying into the program. I think you'd have to say, some guys on the team that were already on the team that weren't All-Americans, Zach Barlow and Matt Hoffman, those guys bought into what we were talking about. We wanted to change something. And then you bring in Scott Langley and Chris DeForest, and Scott Langley was a future NCAA champion, and Chris was an unbelievable talent from New York. And, when those guys...
I spent a lot of time with Chris on the phone, and I remember that may have been one of the first teams I was with.
It was. It was, and Chris needed a lot of time on the phone. But unbelievable kid, unbelievable young man now, and a great father. But he had a lot of learning to do, a lot of growing up to do.
And then Zach went on to be an assistant coach, I think, for you, but went on to Michigan, and it's pretty amazing.
He's currently there right now. But getting back to what you said, the first reason I called you was twofold, though. I mean, it was Mike Adams who called you, I believe, because I still played professionally. I've played professionally all these since I've been coaching, which has kind of been a different niche for our program, different than most programs. I've played in, I think, 11 majors and maybe 30 to 40 PGA Tour events since I've been coaching, and playing is important to me. So I called for you twofold, to help the team, but also to help me and to figure out how to prioritize and categorize and kind of keep everything in my life organized, because I had a family, trying to be a father, a husband, a coach to my players, and then a professional golfer. And I needed that. I needed that to be my life. So that was the main reason why we started doing this whole thing. And now it's evolved, obviously. I think we talked about it a lot. When I first called you and I first started coaching, really, I was a player here and a coach here. And then over time, the coaching, they leveled off for a while. And now the coaching, I feel more of a coach than a player. And I want them both to be successful, but it's hard to find time for both in the time of a day. So
you've called me and said, "Hey, I need to get ready for my next tournament." And I said, "Well, have you been practicing?" "No, I haven't hit a ball." I go, "When is it?" And he goes, "Tomorrow." I'm like, "Tomorrow." And you always amaze me. I think you won 13 Illinois PGAs in a row, something crazy, really. They just should have sent you the trophy and not even had to play. But you were a baller, and you still are. You don't practice a lot. You don't have the time. There's a lot of reasons for that with compliance and recruiting and NIL, and we can talk all about that, which has taken up a lot of your time. But that's a tough transition. I know when you're playing, you want to spend 80% of your times in the moment.
Right.
But as a coach, you got to be looking over the horizon. You got to be recruiting. You got to look into the past to evaluate. That's the biggest challenge, was trying to balance being a top player and a top coach. You and I have had a lot of thoughts about that over the last decade. But the team that you're talking about, with Langley, Hoffman, that was a team that had some leadership on it. And every year you've had leaders that you've developed, because you developed great leadership, and you allowed me to be part of that leadership. When I look at this year, you and I had discussions in the fall about what kind of team this was, and we were both going, this could be a challenge this year. And as far as I'm concerned, I think this is you've been coach of the year, NCAA coach of the year, Big Ten. I mean, my God, I don't know how many of those you've won, a zillion coach of the year. I think this year's your greatest coaching job.
Well,
between you and me.
I appreciate that. And talking back, though, first about that team back 10, 12, maybe 15 years ago, I'd remiss not to mention Luke Guthrie as well. Luke came in the year after Scott Langley, and he was a first-team All-American as well. So those guys got this whole thing going, and boom, and they were eventual multi-year PGA Tour players with great records, and they were a big part of, obviously, the resurgence of this program or the growth of it. But, yeah, this year, on paper, it didn't look like we would be that great. We lost 2 first-team All-Americans in Adrian Dumont, Deschessart, and Tommy Cool, and then a third senior, Matisse Bessard, who ended up getting his DP World Tour card 2 months after he graduated, 3 months after he left here. You lose 3 players who are tour players off your team. You don't know what to expect. I mean, it's just human nature. You look at we had some good players. Obviously, Jackson Buchanan was a returning All-American, and we had some talented freshmen. But besides that, we had some unproven players and some guys that maybe weren't playing at the top of their game. But, man, the whole year, we built it and got better, worked hard at it. The guys obviously did the work, and they took it upon themselves and the responsibility. And we did the first time in 9 years we didn't win the Big Ten championship. We finished second. But then after that, it was kind of like it woke us up. It's like, okay, that's done. We don't have to worry about winning another one of those. The pressure has gotten too big or it's become too much of an issue that we just relaxed and went and won regionals by 8 or 9 shots and won that as a 3 seed, and then went to the national championship and in stroke play portion, 4 rounds, won that by 16 shots and beat all the best teams in the country in stroke play over 4 rounds. We got beaten match play, which is something that we have to figure out, but I think a lot of teams have to figure out. We're not the only team that has made match play all these times and not won it. There's been several, and there's been a lot of teams that only made it once to match play, and they've won it already. So it's an inexact science. We made it 9 times now, which is
and
the
I
record.
think this year we won 5 tournaments. You produced 4 All-Americans. Really exemplary.
It turned out great. It turned out great, but a lot of hard work on the kids' part.
No doubt about it. Well, that work ethic, it comes from you. It really does. So you put in the work and the effort. The S.C.O.R.E system, this is my 50th year of discovering S.C.O.R.E. I didn't create it. I discovered the 5 markers of S.C.O.R.E and how they trigger biochemistry. That's one of the things I've been consistent with the team. We're talking the same language, you and I, how to prepare, how to adjust. And that's where you come in as, to me, one of the best coaches ever, helping players adjust when the pressure's right in front of them. You have the experience as a player, but also how to evaluate honestly. That's one of the things I've really enjoyed. We've kept the same mental makeup for over a decade now, and the kids have bought into it. But the kids have changed. How have they changed from when you started to now? I'm talking about the mindset of the freshmen coming in, stronger, weaker, games better. What are the variables and the differences of when you started and where you are right now?
There's a lot of reasons, a lot of things you could really pinpoint to and examples, but the world's a smaller place now. They're more aware of what's going on around them. That is they got internet, they got social media. They're always aware of somebody else's issues, somebody else's successes, somebody else's problems. And I think the hard part for these young players is to stay in their own lane and worry about themselves and what they got to do. But they're always worried about what people's impressions of them are. And I think that's a big deal. I like the social media part, and the marketing and the branding of yourself has become more important to these kids than actually just getting better. Some can get through it, some understand it, but the ones that stall themselves out, I think, are the ones that put the cart before the horse and don't take care of business on the course before they start thinking about the results and thinking about what they have to do. And I think the world has caused that to happen. And I think, recruiting has become a bigger deal. Parents are more involved. They have agents now. The club companies are more involved. I mean, kids are getting free clubs at 14, 15 because the companies think they'll be good. And so these kids are getting an inflated view of themselves at an early age. And it's just, they're everywhere but where they should be. And I think that's the biggest thing.
Another thing that you've had a lot of pride is the academic side. Obviously, university cares about that. If you don't make the grades, there's no way you're going to play. But you've had a lot of academic All-Americans over the years. How proud are you of that fact? I think that's a big deal.
Well, I am proud of that, Jim, and that is the reason why we're here. I mean, if there's no university, there's no golf team. And I think people have to understand that. People have to understand that golf is a close second here. It is right behind it, but it will never supersede academics. So kids, when they understand that and hit their priorities in line, I think they become better players when they have structure in their life and structure and something else that they're trying to be good at it instead of just one dimensional with golf. And I think that's been important.
One of the first things you and I did together, just as a player and a coach, was to put a blueprint for you, segregating your life with the S.C.O.R.E system, and your husband, your father. I've met your family, definitely. The family's been to my office here in Chicago, and talking about that side. You're more than a coach, more than a player. But once we have that blueprint, then we started giving the kids a blueprint. You're more than a golfer. You're a student. You're a boyfriend. A boyfriend. You have a social life, a financial life. That's different. I don't believe that's happening in other programs around the country, that we're doing a life blueprint for the kids.
It should be happening. Right. It should be happening. And I think the blueprint, if they do it and then they follow it through, is awesome. It's great. But even if they just do it and they may not follow through with it as much, what it does, though, is it makes them recognizes, it shows them, whoa, I do have to think about this. And it gets them starting to think about it. And a lot of kids, they all, every human being, every person, every young person, they go about things differently. They have their own personality, their own way of doing something. But it's hard sometimes to get kids to dedicate a lot of time to this. And that's something that I think we've been smart at. We haven't forced them. We haven't made them do things. We introduced them to it. And by having them do that blueprint, at least it opens up a whole new world they hadn't thought about, and acknowledge things, and makes them at least start understanding that there are opposing and conflicting things happening in their lives that they have to have control over.
Self-discipline is, the first part of our S.C.O.R.E system. And as a coach, you want to discipline your team by setting up parameters in practice, but getting the self-discipline where they work a little bit extra on their own. A bigger struggle is getting the self-discipline incorporated, especially in freshmen and transfers. They've been in another program. All of a sudden they come to Illinois, everything's different.
That's hugely important. But the key is for them to understand it and know it themselves. I mean, it's kind of hard to get self-discipline on somebody if you're putting it on them. It's self-discipline, they have to do it. So generally I try to recruit kids that want to be great, that have the edge, that want to know and understand that nothing's guaranteed, nothing's for sure, but you have to control your space, and you have to love and really want to be a professional golfer someday. And the opposing factors and all the things that draw a kid's attention away from the purpose that he's here for, those are all things that every human being and every adult and child has to deal with. You try to recruit kids that listen, that are coachable, that take what you say to heart, and then have the conviction, the toughness, and the love for the game, and really the love for themselves, and the selfishness to a point. I think selfishness is good in a lot of people. People talk about being selfless and caring about other people. That's important too. You need to have compassion, but if you want to be good at something, or great at something, there's a level of selfishness you have to have, and that's when it comes into the self-discipline. You have to have time to do it. Make time to do it.
So how do you get a player in the zone? You and I talked about that for over a decade. Getting in that purposeful, calm feeling where you have substantial 30-40% less thoughts. Your team this year maybe thought too much at the Big Ten, and I believe that's what happened, overthinking. But, man, in the regionals, the quantity of thoughts of your team dropped substantially in the moment. Tell me about the zone and getting a player in the zone and getting the entire team in the zone state.
That's your S.C.O.R.E system. I mean, that's because what you've done there is you've created this blueprint, this formula for people to understand and kind of relate it to their lives. But it's really common sense. A lot of it. It's just, it's just concentration, optimism, relaxation, enjoyment, all that stuff they have to have. And with kids, enjoyment's a big part. We talk about on our team, we've always done this. We practice hard, we work hard at home so that we can enjoy it and have fun at the tournaments on the road, where I think a lot of people do it differently. They clown around, they relax at home, they don't have structure at home, and then all of a sudden they head to a tournament and they start cramming for their final exam and they start practicing hard and putting pressure on themselves. That takes the enjoyment out of the process. So I think you work hard so you can play later, not play now so you have to go to work later, and that's kind of the idea. And We could have a whole hour on how you do that for your team. I mean, every kid's differently. And what makes my job unique and fun is that we could set something up for the entire team to do it a certain way to do it. This is what the team does. But, you know, in golf, I don't need one player to be able to do something the same way another player does. We don't have to run a play. We don't have to be on the same court at the same time. It's an individual sport, so I can coach every kid differently and maybe put an emphasis on one area they need to work on or think about more than somebody else. And, you know, some kid may need more love and more relaxation, and some other kid may need more discipline and more toughness and more little
size 10 shoe in the backside, you know. So everybody, sometimes a kid needs a kick in the pants.
That's right. They're all different.
They're all different,
and that's what makes my job fun.
Well, you know, you've called me many times in the last decade and said, this person needs more confidence. This person needs to relax a little bit more. You've actually given me an assignment of bolstering one of those 5 components of the S.C.O.R.E system, and you said, hey, do what you do, and you've allowed me to do that. And then the kids have done it. Mm-hmm. They've really worked on it. And
well, what we always tell them, Jimmy, is that, yeah, we do this. Me and you are behind the scenes helping as much as we can. But I tell them when I recruit them, I tell them when they graduate as All-Americans that they did it. They have to do it. It's their responsibility. It's not ours. And, you know, we create the culture. We maintain the culture. We keep everybody accountable, but they're the ones that have to do it. So, you know, my hat's off to them, man. They're the ones that have done this thing and bought in and competed.
How does the S.C.O.R.E system help you personally?
Well, just some stuff we're talking about. I mean, it's really made me aware of things. And again, I'm a big believer in ownership and maybe taking things and twisting them around in your own way to work. Just because you tell me to do something a certain way doesn't mean I have to do it that way. I take the principle of what you're saying and the meaning of what you're saying, and I may put my own spin on it for myself. But it comes with credibility. It comes with validity, and then I can twist it around. If somebody goes and gets an instruction from a teacher, you don't want to go there and do exactly what that teacher says word for word for word, because when you go to a tournament and hit the golf shot, you're playing with his golf swing or her golf swing. That's not the point. You play with your own. So you take all these suggestions, you take all these ideas, these thoughts, you put them in a pot, you stir them up, you shake them up, you open the lid, and then you see what you got, and you put what you want from each person here, there, and all your experiences from your life. You put them in this pot, and then you pull them out for what your recipe is. And what you've given me is a lot of direct stuff that I've used, but also a lot of things that I've taken. I say, okay, that makes a lot of sense, but how can I implement that myself? And I encourage my team to do that same stuff. That way they own it, and it's not something that they're just regurgitating.
So what are the biggest challenges being a college coach, 2024, going into 2025, 2026, recruiting? What are your biggest challenges now?
Well, it's always this, a lot of the same stuff. You got to get guys playing fundamentally sound. You can't fake golf. You could be the greatest positive thinker in the world, and you could be just the most optimistic guy and have a lot of the traits that mental greatness great players have. But if you're just fundamentally off and your club is just not repeatable, it's hard. So obviously fundamentally sound, understanding the game, all the stuff we talk about, there's a list of 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 things you need to do. But the biggest thing now, once all this stuff is aligned, when you're fundamentally fine, and you got your time, and you got your health, and your body, and your schedule, you need to get rid of the noise. You need to eliminate the noise, which I mentioned earlier. I think that's a big thing, that there's so much noise in this world. We're inundated with so much information all day long that you forget to take care of your own business. We're always entertained. Everybody's entertained. And I tell people, my life now at 58 years old versus when I was a younger person back when I was 10 years old. It's amazing how much I learned. The most I ever learned in my life when I really self-reflected and was honest with myself about if I was good at something, if I built confidence, or if I was really upset at myself and I needed to give myself a stern talk and convince myself to do something differently, was when I was grounded in my room with no TV, nobody to talk to, and I'm stuck up in my room being punished for 4 hours back in the 1970s when I had nothing to do but self-reflect. It's amazing how much you learn about yourself when you're not inundated with so much information. and so much stimulus coming at you or stimuli that you never have time to self-reflect. And people are always operating based on what people think or what somebody's doing, or there's information. You never have time just to clear your mind, clear your head, and have nothing going on except, man, I'm going to evaluate myself. And that's a big deal. So I try to get guys to take time before events and before rounds and just get in their own little world and get rid of all the noise.
Which player do you reflect that changed their mindset completely? They came in with one mindset and then they flipped it around. Is there any one player or two players?
Oh, I think that's a huge success of our program. I think they all do that. All the successful ones have done that. They don't really forget who they are, but they're not afraid to absorb and adapt what it takes to be a champion and to change and to make adjustments. The ones that have struggled have been the stubborn ones. Stubborn can be good. Stubborn means you can ignore a lot of the noise and stay with what you're doing, but you also have to learn and grow. And I think people that combine the ability to be stubborn and to believe in themselves and have conviction, but also be able to release that once in a while and put the guard down and listen to somebody they trust to change and to evolve and become the good ones. And I think you look at we've had over 10 or dozen. I mean, we've had a bunch of probably 10 first-team All-Americans, maybe more. I don't know. And that's top 10 players in the country. They just don't. They've been talented, but they don't. But they don't get there just staying on the line. They've actually let themselves meld to the program and fall into line on what we think can kind of help them down the road. They take what they have, what they own, but then they've opened themselves up to learn, and they've used that, like I said earlier, to mix with what they have, and that's a big deal. But you look at all of them. I mean, if I go down the list, I mean, you got Thomas Peters, Thomas Dietrich, Nick Hardy, Dylan Meyer, Charlie Danielson, all these guys that played, Luke Guthrie, Scott Langley we talked about. Then you got, Tommy Cool, who if you asked Tommy when he came in 4 or 5 years, his first year, he thought he had it licked. He thought he what he had to do. And then a year and a half later wasn't improving much. And he decided, I got to figure this out. I got to submit to this process. And then 2 years later after that, he's a first-team All-American. That happens quite a bit. Even like Brian Campbell was an All-American. He's played the PGA Tour. He's going to play the PGA Tour. He was back on campus yesterday. And he came back and I got to see this, and I got to be here and feel all the good stuff that happened and the vibe that was here. It just reinvigorates them. It energizes them. And so I think that applies to a lot of them.
If you go to Illinois right now and you go to your facility, when you drive up to the facility, you just got to look at it sometimes and go, wow, it was an imagination, a dream, and now it's being manifest. You got your own golf course. The facility is phenomenal. Bunkers, putting. I mean, anything a golfer could possibly want to get better, but that's done really through alumni. Say players come back, they all are coming back. All of them want to come back and get a little infusion of that Illini warrior mindset. And but to look at the facility, it is really the best indoor facility in the world, in my opinion. That may be arguable, but bring the other ones out there. Tell me about how your ideas turned into reality. 10 years ago, you didn't have this facility like this.
Yeah, well, it's amazing how time flies, Jimmy. We built that thing 16 years ago. And the outdoor center now complements, and this is a 24-acre all-inclusive outdoor training center that arguably rivals the best outdoor training centers in the world. And we have close to over $18 million of facilities right here on campus you can walk to from class and practice and walk right back. And it's private, all raised with private money. Our donors have been unbelievable. The Demersion, the Woolers, the Lauritsen names on the facility, but then the dozens of people beyond that are recognized around the facility for giving the money, and the support has been huge. And then you take that with the players and the work and the energy and the dedication they put into it. That's how it becomes really special. But, something that when I got the job in 2000, we needed to do. When Steve Stricker and I were here at school back in the 80s, we hit balls into a net at the basement of the gym in the middle of campus, and the ball went 8 feet. we were good. We had good teams, but it wasn't what you needed to do to compete with the best teams in the country consistently. So we built those facilities. And again, but I tell everybody that walks through there, these are unbelievable. And they can't believe it. It's really Disney World for golfers is what it is.
Oh, it
But
is.
it's just a tool though, Jim. It's just a tool. There's no guarantee you're going to be great. Just because you come here doesn't mean it's just going to be, we always talk about sprinkling pixie dust on them. They're going to be great. That's not what happens. They have to do it. They have to put the effort in, the time in, the discipline in, but we've given them the culture, the environment, the facilities, the schedule, everything they need to be great. Now
And
they have to go do it.
Tradition.
Tradition, yeah.
There's a lot of pressure for a kid coming in, looking at, you walk into the facility, you see the All-Americans, you see the accolades. A freshman coming in who's, he was a big deal in high school or junior circuit, Europe, wherever. He's got to come in and go, wow, I need to produce now, not later. A lot of pressure on the kids coming in.
Well, that's what we want them to feel when they come in, that this is something special, it's something unique. But the pressure you talk about too, when you start playing college golf, and I tell this to recruits when they come in, and a lot of them are kind of surprised that we say it, but this is the first time in their life that they're going to have to produce for somebody else besides themselves. They've been a junior golfer their whole life, and it's just been their game, and their parents fly them around and drive them around. If they play good, they play good. They play bad, they play bad. Well, now you're going into a program that has history, has expectations. It takes a special person with some serious stones to get in there and have to deliver. And that's what we want them to understand. That's how you become a PGA Tour player: is you play with expectations. You keep them tempered, but that comes with expectations. And you got families to take care of. You got agents. You got a team. It's just not you anymore. So you have to learn to play with the noise, separate it, play with the expectations, and deliver. And when the pressure gets going, when it gets tough, you got to be able to answer the bell.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've really enjoyed helping with coping tools for relaxation, which is what we're talking about. You can really get stressed out. We've seen across the country and in other sports, 73% of all the student athletes are experiencing symptoms of chronic depression. That's a new phenomenon that I've seen in my 20 years of, actually more than that, 50 years of coaching college athletes. The stress level, the expectations. Oh, I'm going to Illinois, and then I'm going to go right out on the pro tour. Every kid I've talked to at Illinois is a freshman. So what do you want? What's your degree? What do you want? Everyone a PGA Tour. And knowing that you might be successful, but you might not. The competition's pretty crazy. Have you seen this stress level increase exponentially in the last decade?
Well, I think so, but again, we try to coach them out of that. It's there. It's there if you want it to be, but as coaches, we want them to understand that's the carrot they're trying to get. But we don't live that every day and put pressure on ourselves. And it's amazing how many kids come here thinking they got to get in great shape, they got to change their body, they got to do this before they come. And just be yourself. Come here. Keep fighting what you want to do. We will help you. We will chisel you and guide you down the right path that you need. But we try to diffuse that a little bit. And again, we talked about expectations a minute ago, but the best players in the world, when they're playing the game, they have no expectations. They understand they're out there, but they sequester them. They're on the back of their mind, not in the front of their mind. And that's the key for all good players. It's there. You
hit that right on the head. Detaching from results when you play. That's one of the hallmarks of an Illinois team. We have a lot of pride. After 12 holes, we give nothing back. And Illinois, you're closers. And you finish. You don't really change anything. You just execute the basics. You keep it simple in the last 6 holes. But that's one of the things in the regionals. My goodness, did you all close? Unbelievable. And the nationals in stroke play. Talk about closing. You talk about that quite a bit with your team. Open strong, finish strong, and deal with whatever in between, make the adjustments. Your team's been excellent at that, Mike. Better than other teams around the country.
They have been, but I think every team has to develop their personality, their MO. And that's what one of ours is. So we always talk about it. Now, we've had issues throughout the year that we talk about over the years, and we talk about closing, and it becomes a bigger problem than it is. Sometimes you talk about something so much that they think it's a bigger deal, and it works the opposite.
They pressed.
Yeah, they press and they think, oh, got to close. Well, no, it's just hitting your standard. It's just doing. We always talk about it. It's just doing what we do. But you have to understand, it's an important thing. It's a marker. It's a mandate. But it's something that if you make it bigger than it is, it consumes you, and you can't do that either.
Yeah, exactly. So, Mike, you've got another year, new recruiting class. Tell me about the upcoming 24-25 season for Illinois golf.
Well, the potential is there to win another national championship, or to win a national championship, not another one. We're looking for that first one. We've done everything in college golf.
I like how you said that. It's like we've been doing this so long, we think we've already won 4 or 5.
But I tell you what, everything we've done everything in college golf you can do, from individuals to winning any event, to teams, to doing anything except one thing. I mean, we finished second, third, fifth. We've been to the quarterfinals 9 times. We keep knocking. We're there. But I think the potential is there to do that, to contend and to win another one, or to win one, to have a chance to win another one. That it starts on the first day of practice. It goes every day, and that I also tell the team on the first day of practice, the potential is there for us not even to make the national championship too. So I'm not always full of positivity and, hey, we're going to do this. You need a dose of reality. The potential is there for us to win a championship. The potential there is also for us, if we get going sideways and don't control our space, to not even make the national finals. And that hasn't happened a lot. We made the national finals, I think, 17 out of 19 years or something like that, which is crazy, unbelievable. But and to make match play 9 times. But if we don't, we won't make that if we don't do the stuff we need to do.
We've got some All-Americans coming back in the fall. Tell me about your recruits coming in.
We got 3 Americans coming back. We got 4 players returning, 3 freshmen coming in right now. The freshmen are Trey Merriam from the state of Virginia. We got Joe Buttress coming in from Australia, our first international player from Australia. We have Jake Bodwell coming in from the state of Minnesota. 3 talented young players with some talent. They have the potential and the skill to be really good. Now, whether they do or not is up to them. But now the mindset has to start, the belief has to start, and the proving has to start. So the potential's there, but we'll see how it turns out. So it's we're going to be kind of a young and a veteran team together.
So I'm a mom or dad watching this, and I've got a young player, junior, sophomore in high school, and we're starting to get some letters from all over the country to come play golf at our place. Why should someone come to Illinois?
Well, the reason they should come to Illinois, number one, is because they want to. I mean, they should want to come, not because they think they should, because that's the best program, or they should want to subject themselves and be part of this thing and submit themselves to what we do. That's the number one thing. But again, if you want to experience college golf in a very positive, very optimistic, very encouraging culture, yet accountable culture, this is a great place to be, because it's very fun. We have a lot of fun, but it's very accountable. It's very, there's not a lot of looseness happening here. There's not a lot of things happen by accident, if that makes sense. So if you're looking for that, if you're looking for somewhere where you're going to go have the chance to have some fun, make some great friends, we're a very tight-knit team. We do a lot of everything together. And you want to have a chance to be great, this is a great place to do it, but it comes with some truth, with some honesty, and not everybody's ready for that. People want to, they want to be, a lot of people just want the easy road, and if they make it on tour, they make it, and if they don't, they don't, or if they're an All-American, great, if I don't, I don't, and then they go about their life. Well, we go into this thing that we're going to do it. We're going to be competitive, or we're going to maximize our potential, we're going to be in the game, we're going to be fighting for championships. It's not going to happen by accident. But and it's going to be a lot of fun, but there's a lot of accountability with it too.
I think one of the things that you've done remarkably is person comes into this program, and then I'm with them the whole time. You're guiding me on who to talk to, but they leave as world-class decision makers, Mike. They do. They don't always come in as world-class decision makers. Mom, dad been doing everything, paying everything. Now they're coming in saying, oh my goodness, the competition is ferocious in Illinois. We don't have to go anywhere to find competition. It's right there in Champaign. But when they leave, they're prepared to go out in the world to be an agent, to be a coach, or to be on the PGA Tour. You're turning young kids who are more fragile now than they were 10 years ago. I'm talking across the country, but helping them become world-class decision makers to go out on their own. I think any parent listening to this, your kids you're in good hands at Illinois. They're going to learn how to be decision makers. And I have so much pride being part of your program because of that fact. And they do come back and they do support. Right now, today, how many pros are playing right now this week?
We have four playing the Korn Ferry event. I think there's 3 playing the PGA Tour event, although Thomas Dietrich may be taking this week off. Adrian DeMonte-Chassart, Nick Hardy, and Thomas Dietrich are fully exempt on the PGA Tour. And then I got 4 playing Korn Ferry this week. I got 1 playing DP World Tour this week. I got 1 playing the Canadian, Latin America's Canadian Tour event, which is part of the PGA Tour now. So they're out there playing. They're chasing it. And but I have guys, like I said, we have a couple guys who are parts of big-time teams here that are now agents on the PGA Tour. We have coaches in Division I that were here. We have guys who are investment bankers and accountants. And, hey, whatever they want to do, man, whatever they want to do and they're happy, that's what we want. If it's playing golf, great. If it's not, that's great too. But you got to learn to take responsibility for yourself, for your actions, and for your happiness. I mean, things don't happen by accident around here, and they don't happen by accident in life. You got to control your space.
So is Coach Mike Small going to be able to chill out a little bit and reload and refresh before the fall comes up? Is there any break for Mike Small?
I'm trying to find some. June 15th just happened, and that's the 2026 class that we're recruiting right now and looking at and evaluating and building relationships. And it never stops, Jim. If you want to be good, it never stops. But you have to find balance. And I'm going to get my wife and take her away here sometime this summer to get away. But, again, I'm still playing. And I've played every summer for 24 years, and I've played a bunch of, like I said, majors and PGA Tour events. And now I'm older and Champions Tour events when I can get in. And that's kind of relaxation to me in a weird, sadistic way. It's not really relaxing. It's not really chilling out. But if I go to a beach and I'm there for about 45 minutes, I'm ready to leave because it's just I've got my relaxation. It's too much, too slow. I need some action.
Well, that's one of the battle cries that I've helped impart. One word only. Next right. Year, next putt, next move, next round. Keep it going. Mike, it's been a pleasure being with you for over a decade. You are definitely a true champion in all aspects of life. These kids are blessed to have you as a mentor, a guide, a coach. You tell the truth. You're blunt as a hammer to the head. I love that about you. Sometimes they don't like it. Hey, oh well, it is what it is. But really a champion. I've also had the privilege to walk some holes with you during an event. And you're a baller. You know how to be in a zone state, and whatever's going to happen this summer, be in the zone. You know it's the only place to be.
No, thanks, buddy. Thanks for all the help you've given us. You're part of the team. You're part of the program, and thanks for your friendship. And here's to many more years, buddy.
Next
up.
Thanks a lot, Mike. I'll talk to you soon.
See you, bud.
And get some rest.
Yeah, good luck with that one.
All right, bye.
Thanks for watching or listening to Living in the Zone podcast. Make sure that you subscribe so you can be up to date on all of our information and content. Go to ZoneCoach.com where you're going to learn more on how we can help you live your life, business, or sport in the zone.